Tyler Walsh stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office, watching autumn leaves dance across the financial district below. At 45, he cut an imposing figure in his tailored charcoal suit. The morning sun caught silver threading through his dark hair. He had earned his success by building Walsh Investment Partners from scratch. His phone buzzed with a text from his stepdaughter. Cassandra Stone. Dad, I hate to ask, but the university billing office is being difficult again. Can we talk? Tyler smiled, remembering the frightened 12-year-old who first called him Dad 15 years ago. Now at 27 and pursuing her MBA, Cassandra had blossomed into a confident young woman. Of course, sweetheart, I will handle it today, he replied. His secretary, Margaret Chin, knocked on his door. Mr. Walsh, your 10 a.m. meeting with Platinum Holdings is here. Push it to tomorrow, Margaret. It is a family matter, he said. Margaret nodded, hiding her surprise. In 15 years, she had never seen him reschedule a meeting with a major client. Shall I have James bring the car around? Margaret asked. Please, and clear my afternoon too, he replied. Tyler gathered his belongings, including a leather portfolio with Cassandra's previous tuition statements. She had been asking for more frequent payments, citing rising costs and additional fees. He attributed this to the prestigious program and inflation. After all, she had always been responsible with money. The 40-minute drive to the university gave Tyler time to review several investment proposals on his tablet. James, his driver of 10 years, navigated through traffic with practiced ease. How are Sarah's college applications going, James? Tyler asked, remembering that James's daughter was in her senior year. Very well, sir. Thanks to your letter of recommendation, she has 3 interviews lined up. The campus sprawled before them, with ivy-covered buildings and manicured lawns. Tyler straightened his tie as he stepped from the car. I'll call when I'm done, James. The financial aid office occupied the ground floor of an imposing Georgian building. Inside, the air carried the academic mix of old books and cleaning products. A student worker looked up from her computer, eyes widening at Tyler's presence. Good morning. I am here to see Gloria Conley regarding Cassandra Stone's account, he said. The student picked up her phone, spoke quietly, and then nodded. Ms. Conley will see you now. Gloria Conley's office reflected 20 years in academic administration. Organized, efficient, and a bit worn around the edges, she rose to greet him. Mr. Walsh, she said, her tone carrying an odd note that immediately set Tyler's alarms ringing. I must say, I am surprised to see you here. Taking a seat, Tyler said, Cassandra mentioned some issues with her account. I would like to clear any outstanding balance and pay her next semester's fees in advance. Gloria's frown deepened. Mr. Walsh, there is some confusion. Cassandra withdrew from the university 3 months ago. The word struck Tyler like a blow, yet he maintained his composure. There must be a mistake. She has been updating me about her classes and professors. He pulled out the portfolio. I have her tuition statements right here. Gloria adjusted her glasses as she examined the papers. These are not official university documents, she explained. Our records show Cassandra formally withdrew at the start of the semester, citing personal reasons. She has not been enrolled since. Tyler's mind raced through recent conversations with Cassandra. The vague updates, increasing money requests, and her avoiding his offers to have lunch on campus. I see, he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil. Could you print a copy of her withdrawal documentation? Gloria typed on her computer. The withdrawal was processed on September 3, citing family obligations. The printer hummed to life, and Tyler scanned the papers. Cassandra's signature, dated 3 months ago, stared back at him. Thank you for your time, Ms. Conley. You have been very helpful, he said. Rising to leave, he paused at the door. One more thing. Has Cassandra requested that any transcripts or records be sent to other institutions? No, Mr. Walsh. No transcript requests have been made, Gloria replied. Outside, Tyler loosened his tie. The crisp autumn air did little to cool his rising anger. He had built his career on identifying when things did not add up. Right now, nothing about this situation made sense. The drive from the university seemed longer than usual. Sitting in the back of his car, he methodically pieced together the puzzle. James kept glancing in the rearview mirror, sensing his employer's unusual silence. "Should we head back to the office, sir?" "No," Tyler replied calmly. "Take me to Greenwich." This was Cassandra's apartment building, a luxury complex where he had co-signed her lease 2 years ago. During the drive, Tyler tried calling Cassandra 3 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. Her cheerful greeting now felt like mockery. "Hi, you have reached Cassie. Leave a message." He then pulled up her Instagram profile, a rarity for him. The last post was from 2 weeks ago, a sunset photo tagged at his beach house in Southampton, which he had given Amanda for their 10th anniversary. "James, change of plans. Call Kelsey Bennett's number from my contacts," he instructed. Kelsey, Cassandra's roommate, answered on the 4th ring. "Hello. Kelsey, it is Tyler Walsh. I am trying to reach Cassandra. Her phone appears to be off," he explained. Kelsey's voice was hesitant. "Cassie moved out a few weeks ago. She said she was staying at her mother's beach house." Tyler's jaw tightened. "Did she say why?" "Not really. She just packed up one weekend and said she needed some family time." "I thought you knew." Tyler lied smoothly. "I was just confirming." "Thank you, Kelsey." After hanging up, Tyler opened the beach house's security app on his phone. The system showed regular activity over the past 3 months, exactly when Cassandra withdrew. "James, take me to Southampton," he ordered. "Sir, that is a 2-hour drive," warned James. "Then we had better get started," Tyler replied. During the drive, he made several calls. First, he told his assistant, Margaret, cancel all my meetings for the next 2 days. Family emergency. Then he called his head of security, saying, "Dave, I need everything you have on Oscar Bright." "Yes, Amanda's personal trainer." "Everything." The Southampton house was a modern masterpiece of glass and steel, perched on 2 acres of pristine beachfront. Tyler had bought it 5 years ago for $7 million, then spent another $3 million on renovations for Amanda. Lorenzo Humphrey, head of security for the gated community, met Tyler's car at the gate. "Mr. Walsh, we were not expecting you today," he said. "Clearly not," Tyler replied, noting Lorenzo's discomfort. "How long have they been here?" Tyler asked. Lorenzo shifted his weight. "Mrs. Walsh said not to disturb them. She has been here with Miss Stone for about 3 months. And Mr. Bright, the trainer, has been staying here too." Tyler nodded as if this were expected. "Thank you for your honesty, Lorenzo. I trust you will extend me the same courtesy in the future." "Yes, sir." "Of course, sir," Lorenzo replied. The house key felt heavy in Tyler's hand as he stood at the front door. Inside, he heard faint music and voices from the back patio. He entered silently. His expensive shoes made no sound on the marble floors. The entrance hall showed signs of occupation. Unfamiliar men's boots by the door and a gym bag that was clearly not his. Moving through the house, Tyler noted more evidence of his wife's betrayal. Prescription prenatal vitamins lay on the kitchen counter, and a man's watch, unknown to him, rested on the master bedroom nightstand. Approaching the patio doors, voices became clearer. He stopped just inside. Hidden behind costly designer drapes chosen by Amanda, he listened. "Mom, these flowers would be perfect for the ceremony," Cassandra said excitedly. "The colors will match the sunset perfectly," Amanda replied warmly. "They are beautiful, honey." "But won't they be out of season by then?" asked Cassandra. "Not if we have the wedding in June as planned," Amanda answered. "The divorce should be final by April, and that gives us plenty of time to settle everything," she added. Tyler peered through a gap in the curtains. The scene before him was like a photograph of betrayal. Amanda reclined on a luxury lounger, her hand resting on a clearly pregnant belly. Cassandra sat cross-legged beside her, holding a tablet that displayed wedding venue options. Oscar bright, shirtless and tanned, mixed drinks at the outdoor bar. "Baby, bring me that coconut water instead," Amanda called to Oscar. "The doctor said to watch my sugar intake," she added. Oscar replied in an overly sweet tone, "Anything for you and our little one." Tyler remembered Oscar's appearance from their brief meetings, perfectly muscled and suited for a supplement advertisement. Cassandra continued, "I still cannot believe how perfectly everything is working out." She swiped through images on her tablet. "The venue deposit is paid. I have the caterer on hold, and the tuition money you've been sending has covered all the wedding planner's fees." Amanda laughed, a sound that made Tyler's blood run cold. He remembered when he had truly believed you needed extra money for special seminars last month. "Those luxury birthing classes are not inexpensive," Amanda remarked. "And neither is keeping your pregnancy hidden from the country club." Cassandra giggled. "It will all be worth it when everything is finalized," Oscar added as he handed Amanda her drink. "Your dad will not know what hit him. By the time he figures it out, we will have everything in place." Tyler had heard enough. He stepped silently back through the house, his mind already formulating plans. Every business deal he made taught him the value of timing. Right now, timing was everything. In the car, he sent a text to Benjamin Boyer, his attorney and oldest friend. "Need to meet tonight. It's about Amanda. And it's worse than we thought." Benjamin replied quickly, "Usual place at 8 p.m., as James drove them back to the city. Tyler watched the coastal mansion slip past. He had built his life on calculating risks and recognizing opportunities. Amanda, Cassandra, and Oscar thought they were playing a long game. "James, take the scenic route back," he said quietly. "I have some calls to make." The car turned onto the coastal highway as Tyler planned his response to betrayal. The Oak Room at the Street Regis held memories for Tyler Walsh. He closed his first $1 million deal there 15 years ago. Tonight, it would serve a different purpose. He sat in a corner booth, watching ice melt in an untouched glass of Macallan 25. Benjamin Boyer slid into the seat across from him at exactly 8 p.m. In 30 years of friendship, Ben had never been late. His suit and wire-rimmed glasses marked him as one of New York's most formidable divorce attorneys. "You look like hell, Ben," Tyler observed, ordering scotch for himself. "I found out why today," he continued, his voice controlled and methodical. He laid out everything he had discovered. Cassandra's withdrawal from the university, the beach house situation, Amanda's pregnancy, and the planned wedding. Ben's expression darkened as he listened. "When you finish, I will have my investigative team on this tonight. They have already made crucial mistakes. First, Cassandra has committed clear fraud by accepting money under false pretenses and using it for unauthorized purposes. That is criminal territory." Ben leaned forward. "And Amanda, by using joint accounts for expenses related to her affair, creates a paper trail. My forensic accountants will have a field day." The waiter delivered Ben's scotch and disappeared discreetly. "What about Oscar?" Tyler asked. Ben's smile turned predatory. "That is where it gets interesting. I had my team do preliminary digging when you mentioned him 2 months ago. Something felt off about him. It turns out he has a history, 5 previous relationships with wealthy clients' wives. Each ended in a messy divorce with him walking away with substantial settlements." Tyler's eyes narrowed. "A professional con man." "Exactly," Ben agreed. "He finds wealthy, married women, usually through his personal training business. He seduces them, convinces them to leave their husbands, then takes what he can get in the divorce settlement." Ben pulled out his tablet, showing documentation. He is careful, never leaving enough evidence to prove criminal intent. Tyler studied the documents, his mind calculating angles. They think they are being clever, planning everything in advance, using my money to fund their exit strategy. Most men in your position would confront them immediately. Storm in and make a scene, Ben observed. That is probably what they expect. Tyler took a sip of scotch. I want to handle this carefully. They think they are playing the long game. Let us show them what a real long game looks like. For the next hour, they constructed a plan. Ben's legal pad filled with notes as Tyler outlined his strategy. When they finished, Ben said, "You are not just going to beat them. You are going to make them destroy themselves." "First," Tyler replied, "I will secure the company. I have been planning to transfer shares to Cassandra for her 30th birthday. But those need protection. I will create a new trust first thing tomorrow, ironclad, with no possible claim from Amanda or Cassandra." Tyler added, "Meanwhile, I will document everything, every call, text, and fraudulent expense. I want a record that will stand in both civil and criminal court. And Oscar, let me handle Oscar." His smile did not reach his eyes. Every con man has a weakness, and his is greed. As they finished their drinks, Ben observed, most men would be falling apart right now. Most have not spent 30 years turning others' mistakes into profit. Tyler signaled for the check. "They have given me everything I need. The only question is how long to let them think they are winning." Over the next week, to the outside world nothing changed. He attended board meetings, closed deals, and maintained his usual schedule. Only Margaret noticed he was arriving earlier and leaving later. One evening, while he reviewed financial records, Margaret said, "Mr. Walsh, Cassandra called again about the tuition payment." "Tell her I will handle it tomorrow," he replied. "And Margaret, I am increasing your security clearance. You will handle some sensitive documentation over the next few months." Margaret had been with him for 15 years, long enough to know when Tyler Walsh was preparing for war. The tuition payments continued, each meticulously documented. When Cassandra called about rising program costs, he said sweetly, "Of course, sweetheart. Whatever you need for your education." Meanwhile, Ben's investigation into Oscar Bright revealed a pattern both predictable and damning. 5 wealthy women in 3 states followed the same script. Personal training sessions leading to an affair, promises of a new life together, then a carefully orchestrated divorce with substantial assets going to Oscar. "He is good," Ben admitted during one strategy session. "He uses burner phones for communication and keeps his name off most documents," Ben continued. "But he slipped up with Amanda. He became overconfident and started using the joint credit card." Tyler smiled. It was exactly as expected. "Document everything," he instructed. "I want a complete timeline of the affair." The next phase required careful timing. Through business connections, Tyler arranged for Oscar to be offered a position as fitness director at an exclusive resort in Singapore. The salary was impressive, and the benefits package was extraordinary. As expected, Oscar turned it down. He thinks he has a bigger payday coming with Amanda. Ben observed, "Classic overconfidence by a con man." Tyler replied, "Perfect. Now we know he is fully committed to their plan." The pieces were falling into place. While Tyler maintained his regular routine, his days were filled with careful preparation. He upgraded the security system at his office so every meeting was recorded. He also had his legal team review Amanda's prenuptial agreement, focusing on the morality clause she insisted on including. Ironic, given her actions. Cassandra's fraud provided the foundation for criminal charges. Tyler worked with Ben to document every fraudulent transaction, building a case that would be impossible to defend. The fact that the money was used for wedding preparations and Amanda's private medical care only strengthened their position. "The beauty of it," Ben said, "is that they have done all the work for us. Every step they took to hide their plan makes our case stronger." Tyler spent his evenings in his home office, watching security footage from the beach house. He saw Oscar coming and going, noted Amanda's growing pregnancy, and observed Cassandra's frequent visits. Each observation was carefully catalogued. Each pattern noted, "Sir, James, his driver, said one evening as they left the office. Mrs. Walsh called again about attending the Carter Charity Gala next week. Tell her I will be there." Tyler checked his watch and added, "James, take the rest of the week off. Family time is important." James nodded, understanding the unspoken warning. 3 months of careful preparation culminated on a crisp December morning. Tyler's office overlooked Central Park, where bare trees stood against a steel-gray sky. Everything was in place. "Margaret," he said into the intercom, "please show my family." Amanda entered first, elegant in designer clothes that his money had bought. Her pregnancy was now more visible, though she tried to hide it behind loose clothing. Cassandra followed, holding a tablet that likely contained more wedding plans. Oscar came last, his practiced confidence slipping slightly in the unfamiliar corporate setting. "Darling," Amanda said sweetly, "this is a surprise. You have been so busy lately. Sit down." Tyler's tone was pleasant, but left no room for argument. "We need to talk about family." They arranged themselves on a leather sofa with Amanda between Oscar and Cassandra. Tyler noticed how Oscar's hand automatically went to Amanda's back, a gesture meant to seem protective, but really marking his territory. "I have asked you here because I care about family," Tyler began steadily. "Family should know the truth." He pressed a button on his desk, and the wall-mounted screen came to life. What truth would that be? Amanda wondered. Her attempt at innocence might once have fooled him. "Let us start with you, Oscar." Tyler pulled up the first set of documents. "Would you like to explain these?" The screen displayed divorce settlements, bank records, and surveillance photos. Oscar's face remained composed, but his hand tightened on Amanda's shoulder. "I do not know what you are implying," he began, but Tyler cut him off. 5 wealthy women in 3 states, each divorced their husband after meeting you. Each settlement names you as a beneficiary of various assets, Tyler explained calmly. "Very good at what you do," he added. Amanda turned to Oscar, confusion breaking through her mask. "What is he talking about?" she asked. "He is trying to manipulate us," Oscar said quickly. "This is all fake." "Fake." Tyler pressed another button, and security camera footage from various hotels played silently. "Like the rooms you booked using Amanda's emergency credit card?" Tyler asked. "Or the jewelry you bought her using our joint account?" He continued. Cassandra began to speak, but Tyler silenced her with a look. "I am not finished." While Oscar played his usual game, the two of you were busy with your own schemes. More documents appeared on the screen. University withdrawal papers, bank transfers, and wedding venue deposits. "Cassandra, as of this morning, the police have opened an investigation into your fraudulent use of tuition funds. Would you like to explain how you used that money for wedding preparations and your mother's private medical care?" The color drained from Cassandra's face. "Dad, I can explain," she pleaded softly. "And Amanda." Tyler continued as if she had not spoken. "Remember the morality clause you insisted on adding to our prenuptial agreement. The clause stated that any infidelity would result in total forfeiture of claims to my company assets." Amanda's hand went protectively to her stomach. "You would not do that," she protested. "Actually, I would. And I am," Tyler declared as he buttoned his suit jacket. "You thought you were being clever, using my money to fund your escape. But you forgot something crucial," he added. "What is that?" Oscar challenged. "I built my fortune by turning others' mistakes into opportunities." Tyler smiled coldly. "Your mistakes have been very profitable." He then laid out his plan methodically. Criminal charges against Cassandra, prenuptial violations that would leave Amanda with nothing, and evidence to be sent to Oscar's professional certification board regarding his pattern of behavior. "You cannot do this," Amanda protested, tears forming. "I am pregnant," she said. "Yes, you are. Pregnant with another man's child while still married to me," Tyler replied without sympathy. "That should make the divorce proceedings interesting," he stated. "Now I suggest you all leave. My security team will escort you out. Oh, and Oscar, that job offer in Singapore is still open. You might want to consider it before the certification board receives our documentation," he added. As they were escorted out, Tyler heard Amanda's voice crack. "Oscar, tell me it isn't true about the other women." The door closed on their confusion and recriminations. Tyler sat back at his desk, examining the city skyline. He had built his empire by recognizing opportunities. Sometimes, the greatest opportunity comes disguised as betrayal. Benjamin entered a few minutes later. "It is done. The police are waiting to interview Cassandra. Amanda's accounts have been frozen, and Oscar's professional future in New York is over." "Good," Tyler replied, turning from the window. "Now let's discuss the divorce strategy." The Singapore Airlines first-class ticket had been booked under an alias. Oscar Bright sat in the terminal at JFK with his designer carry-on containing what remained of his New York life. His phone buzzed with another message from Amanda. Her 20th in 2 hours. He deleted it without reading. 3 days had passed since my orchestrated revelation. 3 days since Oscar's carefully constructed world had crumbled as the certification board's investigation gained momentum. Former clients were coming forward, and his professional reputation was in tatters. "Last call for Singapore Airlines Flight 23. The announcement blared. Oscar grabbed his bag. The job offer was still open, and I had insured it. It was either Singapore or facing mounting legal pressure in New York. He had chosen survival over Amanda and their unborn child, as he had 5 times before. Across town, Amanda Walsh sat in her obstetrician's waiting room, mascara smeared from crying. Her phone showed Oscar's message from last night. "Sorry, babe. I cannot risk the investigation. Take care of yourself and the baby." The receptionist approached carefully. "Mrs. Walsh, your card was declined." Amanda's hand shook as she pulled out another credit card. One of the joint accounts she had used had been frozen by me. Meanwhile, at the district attorney's office, Cassandra Stone faced the consequences of her actions. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Falsified tuition requests, fraudulent use of funds, and documented transfers to wedding vendors and medical facilities. "Your father's evidence is ironclad," explained her court-appointed attorney, David Chun. He detailed every transaction, every lie, every fraudulent step. "There has to be something you can do," Cassandra pleaded. "I am your daughter, stepdaughter," Chun corrected firmly. "And no, there is not much I can do unless you cooperate. Unless you tell us everything about your mother's involvement, how the plan was developed, who initiated it, and where the money went." Cassandra's loyalty lasted exactly 17 minutes. By the time she finished her statement, she had thrown Amanda under the bus so thoroughly that the prosecutor smiled. Back at Walsh Investment Partners, I reviewed the morning's reports with Benjamin. "Oscar is on his way to Singapore," Ben confirmed. He had booked the ticket an hour after the board contacted him. I nodded, unsurprised. "And Amanda? She is trying to access the accounts I froze. She has also called my personal line 8 times. "Let her squirm," I said, turning to the window and watching my reflection in the glass. And Cassandra, singing like a canary. "It turns out your stepdaughter's loyalty only runs as deep as her trust fund," Ben said, shuffling his papers. "She has offered to testify against Amanda in exchange for a lighter sentence." "Perfect," I said with a cold smile. Ben and I plotted together. Now let them destroy each other. The divorce papers had already been filed. Amanda's attempts to claim part of the company assets failed from the start, as the prenuptial agreement's morality clause was airtight. My evidence of her infidelity was overwhelming. "Your wife's lawyer called," Ben mentioned. "They want to discuss a settlement." "No discussion is needed," I replied. "She gets exactly what the prenup stipulates in cases of infidelity. Nothing." In the following weeks, events unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of consequences. Amanda, abandoned by both her lover and her daughter, faced the harsh reality of her choices. Her pregnancy, once a triumph in her plan with Oscar, became a source of whispered gossip at the country club. The scandal might have been contained if not for an unexpected alliance. Norma and Kenneth Hayes, Amanda's parents, reached out to me directly. "We raised her better than this, Norma said during a lunch meeting at La Bernardi. Her pearls and perfect posture could not hide her disgust at her daughter's behavior. "Kenneth and I want you to know we stand with you, Tyler," she added. Kenneth Hayes, a retired judge, nodded gravely. "Amanda's actions are inexcusable. Using her own daughter in this scheme and betraying a man who has given her everything," he said. "I express genuine appreciation. I know this is not easy for you." "Oh, it is quite easy," Norma said sharply. "Our daughter chose to destroy her marriage, conspire with her child to commit fraud, and bring shame to both families. There is nothing difficult about choosing sides here." Their support proved crucial in the social fallout. When Amanda tried to spin her version of events at the Metropolitan Museum's annual gala, Norma publicly admonished her, "Do stop embarrassing yourself. Your lovers fled to Singapore, your daughter faces criminal charges, and you are pregnant with another man's child while still married. Perhaps dignity and silence would be best," Norma declared. Cassandra's reckoning took a different form. The fraud charges threatened everything she had taken for granted: her reputation, future prospects, and lifestyle. Her only hope was to cooperate with authorities. In a sterile conference room at the prosecutor's office, she detailed everything. "It was Mom's idea initially," she said. "After she got involved with Oscar, she said Dad's money could fund their fresh start. I helped hide the pregnancy and used the tuition money for our plans," she continued while Sarah Martinez took detailed notes. "And you understood this was fraud?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," Cassandra replied softly. "I knew it was wrong, but Mom said that after the divorce, with Oscar's help, they would take care of me." "The same Oscar who is now in Singapore," she noted. Cassandra's silence spoke volumes. "Meanwhile, my position in both business and social circles strengthened. My handling of the crisis impressed clients and competitors alike. I had turned personal betrayal into professional triumph, becoming a legend in Manhattan's upper circles. I have had 3 potential investors call this week," Benjamin reported during our meeting. "They are impressed by how you handled everything. Crisis management at its finest." 1 year later, my office offered an even more commanding vista of Central Park. Success, it seemed, was the best revenge. The morning sun caught the edge of an envelope on my desk. Cassandra's latest attempt at reconciliation, like its predecessors, would remain unopened. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. My phone buzzed with a message from Lynn Rhodes. We had met during the divorce proceedings. She was part of Benjamin's legal team. "Dinner tonight. That new place on Madison?" she asked. I smiled and replied affirmatively. Lynn understood me in ways Amanda never did. She appreciated my strategic mind, shared my values, and respected me. "Mr. Walsh," Margaret's voice came through the intercom. "Benjamin Boyer is here for your weekly lunch." We chose a restaurant with a view of Central Park's autumn colors. Benjamin arrived exactly on time, as always. "The beach house is sold," he reported, "and it's settled above asking price." I nodded and explained that I had donated the proceeds to a charity supporting fraud victims, a decision that generated positive press and felt right. "How is Amanda doing?" Benjamin asked, though we both knew he kept tabs on everyone. "She is struggling with single motherhood. Her parents' trust fund barely covers basic expenses," I stated. "Oscar sends sporadic support when he remembers, and Cassandra is working at a small firm in Queens, part of her plea agreement," I added while sipping water. "She writes monthly, asking to meet and explain." "Do you plan to answer her?" I said. "No need," I replied. "Sometimes the best revenge is letting people face the consequences of their actions." Our conversation turned to business matters, but I briefly wondered how much had changed in a year. My company had grown, partly because clients admired my crisis management. What could have destroyed me had instead revealed my strength. That evening, as I left the restaurant, I felt no joy in their suffering. Their punishment was not my victory. It was simply the natural consequence of their choices. I had ensured I was not collateral damage in their self-destruction. Walking to meet Lynn for dinner, I felt an unexpected peace. The betrayal that could have broken me had instead freed me. My old life, built on false loyalties, had given way to something genuine. Lynn was waiting at our usual table, her legal briefs set aside. "Good day," she said as I sat down. "Better now," I replied softly. Sometimes, losing a false family is the only way to make room for a true one. I had survived their betrayal and emerged stronger, wiser, and surprisingly happier. In the end, I did not need to destroy them. They destroyed themselves. My only role was to ensure they could not destroy me in the process. 5 years later, the Manhattan skyline had changed, but Walsh Tower remained unchanged. 48 stories of glass and steel, its illuminated logo visible for blocks, housed Walsh Investment Partners, one of the city's most respected financial firms. I stood at my penthouse office window, watching the sunset paint the city gold. At 50, I cut an even more imposing figure. Success had added a layer of quiet authority to my presence. My marriage to Lynn 2 years ago had softened some of my edges while sharpening others. "Mr. Walsh," Margaret Chin, now Chief of Staff, announced at my door, "Your dinner reservation at Daniel is confirmed, and I have the updates you requested." I turned from the window. "How are our old friends doing?" Margaret consulted her tablet. Amanda Walsh, now Amanda Collins again, still lives in Queens. Her studio apartment, provided by her parents' trust fund, is a far cry from the Upper East Side life she once knew. Her son, Lucas, is 4.5, and no father is listed on the birth certificate. I nodded. My ex-wife's fall from grace had been both spectacular and complete. The last I heard, she taught yoga at a local gym. Her private client dreams were shattered by the scandal that still clung to her name. Oscar Bright remained in Singapore, though he moved around Asia frequently. He attempted similar schemes with wealthy expatriate wives in Hong Kong and Tokyo, but documentation of his pattern reached the proper channels. He has been blacklisted from most reputable fitness facilities and social clubs in the region. Recent photos showed a man gone to seed. His once impressive looks faded without access to wealthy clients. He was reduced to running boot camps on public beaches, living in modest apartments, and occasionally reaching out to Lucas with empty promises and excuses for missing child support. Margaret's expression softened slightly. The monthly letters had stopped 2 years ago, but everyone knew I kept tabs on my former stepdaughter, now working at a mid-level accounting firm in Queens. Her plea deal and criminal record prevented her from advancing. She now lived in a shared apartment in Astoria, took the subway to work, and had recently started dating a high school math teacher, a far cry from the life I had planned for her. Benjamin Boyer arrived with impeccable timing. "Now senior partner at the city's most prestigious law firm," he said, "ready for dinner. Lynn is meeting us there." I gathered my coat. "How are Norman and Kenneth?" I inquired. "The Hayes are enjoying retirement in Palm Beach. They have not spoken to Amanda beyond sending birthday checks to Lucas," Margaret reported. Benjamin checked his phone. Kenneth mentioned they updated their will. Everything now goes to charitable foundations. Apparently, they no longer trusted their daughter with an inheritance. On the drive to Daniel, we passed Amanda's old yoga studio. Through the window, we saw her leading a sparsely attended class in generic athletic clothes. Her carefully maintained appearance showed signs of strain. She had tried to reach out again. Benjamin mentioned she wanted to discuss renegotiating the divorce settlement. "Nothing to discuss," I said firmly. The prenuptial agreement had been clear. Infidelity meant forfeiture of all claims to my assets. Amanda's betrayal cost her not only her marriage, but her lifestyle, social standing, and relationship with her parents. Benjamin added, "Your wife's lawyer called. They want to discuss a settlement." I replied, "No discussion is needed. She gets exactly what the prenup stipulates in cases of infidelity. Nothing." In the following weeks, events unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of consequences. Amanda, abandoned by both her lover and her daughter, faced the harsh reality of her choices. Her pregnancy, once a triumph in her plan with Oscar, became a source of whispered gossip at the country club. The scandal might have been contained if not for an unexpected alliance. Norma and Kenneth Hayes reached out to me directly. "We raised her better than this," Norma said during a lunch meeting at La Bernardi. Her pearls and perfect posture could not hide her disgust at her daughter's behavior. "Kenneth and I stand with you, Tyler," she added. Kenneth, a retired judge, nodded gravely. "Amanda's actions are inexcusable, using her own daughter in this scheme, and betraying a man who gave her everything," he said. I expressed genuine appreciation. "I know this is not easy for you." "Oh, it is quite easy," Norma said sharply. "Our daughter chose to destroy her marriage, conspire with her child to commit fraud, and bring shame to both families. There is nothing difficult about choosing sides here." Their support proved crucial in the social fallout. When Amanda tried to spin events at the Metropolitan Museum's annual gala, Norma publicly admonished her, "Do stop embarrassing yourself. Your lovers fled to Singapore, your daughter faces criminal charges, and you are pregnant with another man's child while still married. Perhaps dignity and silence would be best," Norma declared. Cassandra's reckoning took a different form. The fraud charges threatened everything she had taken for granted: her reputation, future prospects, and lifestyle. Her only hope was to cooperate with authorities. In a sterile conference room at the prosecutor's office, she detailed everything. "It was Mom's idea initially," she said. "After she got involved with Oscar, she said Dad's money could fund a fresh start. I helped hide the pregnancy and used the tuition money for our plans." She continued while Sarah Martinez took detailed notes. "And you understood this was fraud?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," Cassandra replied softly. "I knew it was wrong, but Mom promised that after the divorce, with Oscar's help, they would take care of me." "The same Oscar who is now in Singapore," she noted. Her silence spoke volumes. "Meanwhile, my standing in both business and social circles strengthened. My crisis management impressed clients and competitors alike. I had turned personal betrayal into professional triumph, becoming a legend in Manhattan's upper circles. "I have had 3 potential investors call this week," Benjamin reported. "They are impressed by how you handled everything. Crisis management at its finest." 1 year later, my company had grown significantly. My office now offered an even more commanding vista of Central Park. Success was the best revenge. The morning sun caught the edge of an envelope on my desk. Cassandra's latest attempt at reconciliation, like all previous ones, would remain unopened. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. My phone buzzed with a message from Lynn Rhodes, who had met me during the divorce proceedings. "Dinner tonight. That new place on Madison?" she asked. I smiled and replied affirmatively. Lynn understood me in ways Amanda never did. "Mr. Walsh, Benjamin Boyer is here for your weekly lunch," Margaret announced over the intercom. We chose a restaurant with a view of Central Park's autumn colors. Benjamin arrived exactly on time, as always. "The beach house is sold," he reported, "and it's settled above asking price." I nodded and explained that I had donated the proceeds to a charity supporting fraud victims. This decision generated positive press and felt right. "How is Amanda doing?" Benjamin asked, though we both kept tabs on everyone. "She is struggling with single motherhood. Her parents' trust fund barely covers basic expenses," I stated. "Oscar sends sporadic support when he remembers, and Cassandra works at a small firm in Queens, part of her plea agreement. She writes monthly, asking to meet and explain." "Do you plan to answer her?" I asked. "No need," I replied. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people face the consequences of their actions. Our conversation then turned to business matters, but I briefly reflected on how much had changed in a year. My company had grown, partly because clients admired my crisis management. What could have destroyed me had instead revealed my strength. That evening, as I left the restaurant, I felt no joy in their suffering. Their punishment was not my victory. It was simply the natural consequence of their choices. I had ensured I was not collateral damage in their self-destruction. Walking to meet Lynn for dinner, I felt an unexpected peace. The betrayal that could have broken me had instead freed me. My old life, built on false loyalties, was gone. Lynn was waiting at our usual table, her legal briefs aside. "Good day," she said as I sat down. "Better now," I replied softly. Sometimes, losing a false family is the only way to make room for a true one. I had survived their betrayal and emerged stronger, wiser, and surprisingly happier. In the end, I did not need to destroy them. They destroyed themselves. I only ensured they could not destroy me in the process. 5 years later, my life flourished. Walsh Investment Partners had tripled in size. My marriage to Lynn brought genuine happiness, and our baby would be raised with real values, not the false loyalty that destroyed my first family. Sometimes, Lynn said, "Karma needs a little help." I smiled, taking her hand. Justice is about consequences. They chose their path, and I made sure they could not escape what awaited them. Later that night, in our Upper East Side penthouse, I watched the city lights while Lynn worked on case files. My phone buzzed with a message from Margaret. "Amanda tried to use your name to get store credit again, but the manager knew our history." 5 years had proven that the best revenge is not about destruction. It is letting people live with the consequences of their choices. Oscar faced loneliness as a con man exposed. Amanda endured the humiliation of a schemer whose plots backfired. Cassandra lived a modest life. I did not need to pursue revenge. I simply ensured that justice was served, cold and complete. My new life, our company's success, and my marriage to Lynn were built on the wisdom of surviving betrayal. The city sparkled below, and I felt a familiar peace. I had lost a false family and found a true one. Success was the best revenge, but happiness was the best reward. Lynn looked up from her files and smiled at me. I knew I had won more than justice. I had won freedom from those who never deserved me, making room for those who did. In the end, karma served itself. I simply made sure everyone paid their fair price for betrayal. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.